Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check brought to you by BB. A reminder, as always, guys, that there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Welcome, and welcome to the end of yet another week. Happy Friday, guys. I'm sure some of you are weekend celebrators. You are getting nice and excited here for the days ahead, but fear not, we are going to cook you up a delicious meal on this Friday before you are able to check out for the week. Regardless, though, guys, we've got a lot to talk about, right? I mean, we got unemployment data today. Of course, we have September seasonality kind of playing a role here early on in the month. Reflected in both equities and crypto. We are going to talk about all of that and then some. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Louis T, as well as Dr. Will's Outlook. Excited to bring you guys all the content on Friday's show. And like I said, send you off into your weekend on a good note. But before we can do that, guys, I'm going to ask you very, very kindly. I might even beg you. I'm not getting down on my knees, but I'm begging you to smash that like button for us. We are here on our Fridays cooking you up a storm. We are here every single day bringing you guys talk on markets. We are always very appreciative when you can slam that like button, smash that like button. And as I always say, any adjective you need to justify hitting the like button, we are very, very appreciative. And of course, we'd love to not ask you for like buttons at the beginning of every show, but the tech gods that control our algorithms and everything in between, they demand it. And unfortunately, we must appease. But regardless, guys, let's get into more market talk, right? Into more talk about the market, because we already have a show called Market Talk with King Wabi. Make sure to check that out later this afternoon, of course, on Twitter Spaces. But we did get unemployment data this morning. I want to say that the data was overwhelmingly positive. Typically, when we see, or at the very least over the last year and a half, when we've seen positive unemployment data, the market has ripped higher. We're seeing maybe a bit of a shift here in that regard. We'll see if that is something that remains consistent or if this is a fake out move before, sending potentially into Powell later this month. I think there are probably a myriad of scenarios that could potentially play out, of course. But I also want to talk about, we did have the positive unemployment data. We also had the negative revisions from both June and July. So perhaps the market is keying up to that a little bit. I think the market is wanting the Fed to cut rates. The question is later this month, is it going to be 25 basis points or is it going to be 50? And I'm sure, we've talked about that pretty much all week for the last few weeks. You want to see that 25 basis point cut. And as Dr. Will's Outlook was pointing before the stream, and I'm sure he'll want to touch on later in this show, it's not the worst thing in the world that we're seeing this market sell off before we see the rate cuts, as long as those rate cuts are not, a result of panic, right? Which would probably be the 50 basis point cut. So 25 points with a sell off into Powell would probably paint a pretty favorable picture here for the coming months and into Q4, which will probably be a very strong bid as a result of liquidity tailwinds, which is also something that we've talked about. Of course, crypto is also seeing some downside as well today. And I'm going to continue to say, I think that crypto markets are very beholden to kind of what's happening in equities right now. And that's probably going to be the case for crypto's relationship to a few tickers specifically, right? Like, what is Nvidia doing? Because at the end of the day, Nvidia is the NASDAQ, right? If Nvidia is continuing to rip lower, it's probably going to be difficult for tech, going to be difficult for risk, obviously. And then, of course, as well, what is the VIX doing? The VIX is something that we've been talking about as well. I didn't really think that it looked the most constructive last week. It is showing a little bit of strength into the tail end of this week. But like I said, could that be the fake out move that we see before a rip into Powell? Or is that something that we need to get more used to, is the VIX trading at an elevated level here in the month of September? But a lot to talk about, guys. We're going to be going through it all, right? Nvidia, equity markets, crypto, Bitcoin, ETH, not all of your favorite shit coins, but a lot of them, hopefully. But happy Friday, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the discussion. I'd love to know, not just, if you guys have any thoughts on the unemployment print, let her rip. If not, I'd love to know what your general thoughts are on the current state of the market here.
Unemployment is a fake number made up by the government and given to you to make you feel a certain way about the markets, because I don't even think they know what unemployment is, let alone employment, right? They just print money and then give it to themselves and everybody else, and then they take money from us. So that's basically how this works. And I wouldn't call indentured servitude employment, which is nowadays what employment really is. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think it's interesting.
Starting off the show strong, Will.
I think it's an interesting topic with crypto and equities, but I mean, like, it's not like it wasn't necessarily expected, right? This is something we were talking about, Tommy, and like even when we bounced back up to 68, I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, we broke the 60K range. I was like, we'll probably roll, and we roll, right? And we've been coming down, but the structure is the key here for me. And I think, like, if you're gonna look at anything in this current situation, I don't think it's cascade into cascade. Whenever it's almost like reminiscent of basically rate hikes, right? What would you do every rate hike in 2022? Prices would go up, and then what would happen? The hike would happen, and then nuke, right? And that's what they were doing. They were creating the exit liquidity, right? And now it's almost reminiscent of the exact opposite right now, and that's basically prices will go down, and then we're going to go into rate cuts, and then what are they going to do? Probably go the opposite direction, right? Like it always consider the market direction before a major event the wrong direction or the false news direction.
And knee-jerk reaction, right?
I don't even know if I'd call it knee-jerk, because knee-jerk reaction typically happens after the fact, right? And I think, like, people that are looking for a knee-jerk reaction may not get one because they're sitting here thinking that this thing's going to straight nuke after cuts. And the reality is all we've been doing is nuking. Why have we been nuking? Well, I think a lot of people tend to forget that the market, it has forethought, right? It sees ahead. It thinks ahead. It moves ahead of events. And it's probably already priced in a lot of this. It's probably already priced in the cuts, probably already priced in a lot of different things. Like I say probably because I don't want to definitively say that it has, right? Because nobody knows if it has or hasn't. But I would say there's a high likely chance that it's probably priced in a lot of, the negative price action that should come from cuts. And if we get a 25 BP and then we get a cut and then we get, into this downward trend, that could technically, theoretically mark a bottom. And a lot of people will shit the bed when they're like, oh, this pump is fake after the fact, and it just keeps going.
I do think to some degree, the Fed declaring victory in Jackson Hole, right? Because that's basically what they did a few weeks ago. Might have, I mean, I don't want to say it too hastily, right? But it might have caused this paradigm shift where, all news has been good news for the last year and a half, right? Like, oh, bad unemployment data, bad CPI data. Well, people are hedged into it, so we'll rip. Or good data, we're definitely going to rip. But now it's kind of like, I think people are interpreting data a bit more on the merit of that data, which is kind of ironic because you think that would have been the case initially, but obviously there are a lot more complex dynamics that play a role in positioning and trend dynamics. But at least in the short term, if this is an indication of kind of where we're headed, it does to me maybe signal that we are going to interpret that data on its merits now, which, yes, the unemployment data was very positive and bullish on its face value, but then at the same time we had revisions come in for June and July that were very negative. So maybe you're seeing the market kind of counterbalance that a little bit. I think it's maybe too soon to answer that, but I do think it's an important point to consider as we head into Powell. And I will say I agree with you, Will. I think if the market is going to be selling off as a result of that into a 25-point basis rate cut or basis point rate cut, then I do think that would create likely a very bullish scenario for markets coming out of it.
I think the hardest thing for people is where do we land before then, right? And that's what a lot of people I think are coming here for. They're going to the timeline for. They're sitting here, and you know when times are bad, when the memes go hard, right? And the memes lately have been going hard, so it's like, and then you get people feeling like they need to be vindicated, right, on the timeline on Twitter, like, I told you it was going to nuke, blah 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 blah. And the vindication is kind of the other sign that you could probably be near a local bottom too. Usually the vindication is usually a sign that I'm telling you it's going to 10K. Remember Capo, the vindication arc every time, and then the market just went the opposite direction.
Man, Capo's arc has been something to follow. I'll tell you what, Will. It's
an explosion.
Yeah, it's funny seeing him so bullish up here. I think he's been really bullish on alt Bitcoin pairs for the last few weeks, but to his credit, he was bullish before I think he called the ETF sell off to a T and then got bullish towards the low. And I think he caught the rip up to all-time highs, so I'll give him credit for that. But yeah, his character arc has been something, man.
Yeah, well, we can't catch them all, right? This isn't Pokemon; it's charts. Yeah. So unfortunately, we can't catch them all. So even none of us are that great. I feel like nobody should come to the market and feel like they need to be vindicated. Like either you're right or you're wrong. You're only as good as your last trade. If you were wrong on your last trade, you're a horrible trader. And if you're good on your last trade, you're a great trader, right? I feel like I've been a great trader lately, and eventually I'll be a horrible trader at some point. But this downside,
you don't even need to be right or wrong. It's just about, did you make money? Yeah. Did you make money? Did you lose money? That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I've been telling people like, hey, be positioned for more downside. Be expecting more downside. And I think if people were doing that, then they were fine in this downtrend. But I'll tell you this, Sui is doing phenomenal, but we don't have to get to that first. We can get to whatever Louis got going on here first, and then we can run around the charts.
Louis, what you got?
Yeah, I noticed Sui this morning. I was looking at Sui yesterday. Well, we'll talk about it, but yeah, I was looking at it yesterday, and I was like, one of the few coins green today. I'm really liking how that's looking. I might have to add it back to the port because it's looking strong. Finally, it's a little early to that one, but I'm just looking at the VIX because I noticed the VIX is spiking again this morning. It's up like 12% or something on the day, which is obviously aiding this cascade. This market-wide cascade we're seeing again this morning. And we only get these VIX spikes every couple years, so they're pretty rare. But just at a quick look, I literally just did this on the fly. I was just curious, playing around with it. And you see that these are big impulses up, and they get sold off pretty quick. 2018, which I don't remember what the reason was for this. I was still a noob back then. I mean, I know 2020 was COVID. Do you guys know what the 2018 reason for that VIX spike was? Or
Volmageddon. Basically, people got way offside shorting volatility and got blown the hell out.
So just a vol squeeze?
Yeah.
Volmageddon. Okay, got it. And then 2020 COVID, obviously. They think these things go straight up and then they come down. And then obviously the most recent one, this is a 3-day. This is all wicked. This thing shot up and then got shot back down super quick. But just pattern recognition on the price action of how these things kind of ebbs and flows. I'm noticing a pattern where you get these big spikes up, they get sold off pretty quickly. But then you get these bounces in these downtrends. You know what I'm saying? And it looks as if if you just put a simple fib retracement on here, you get the big spike up, and then you kind of get these bounces in these downtrends. So I mean, it looks like we come to that 0.382. We kind of overran a little bit here, on the fib, but it looks like you get these big sell-offs, you get these bounces, So, if we were just looking at what we saw, the beginning of August, when we had that big cascade, we had the big increase in price on the VIX spike. I wouldn't be surprised if we did kind of retrace, back up to maybe this 382 level, maybe $31, $32 on the VIX, which can, make September, which I know everyone's been saying, and it pains me to say that because usually, my instinct is everyone's saying something. I like to fade that, and data is data, right? I like to follow the data, but when everyone's looking at the same data point, I like to be a little more cautious with it. But it's looking as if we're going to get more of the same. Is that September is usually a choppy to down month, drives people crazy before we go into a bullish Q4 into an election. So something like this, where the VIX kind of just retraces this basically super quick move to the downside, maybe retraces up to this level, and then we see a continued downtrend. Because that's mostly what the VIX is, right? It's mostly down and chop. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got another, pump in the VIX here, similar to what we saw on the most recent 2 other VIX spikes, which is, a pump back to that 382 level on the fib, before, continued downside, kind of catch everyone off guard. And I mean, like, look, let's be real. Like the move off the lows, from that early August cascade has been straight up. You know what I mean? Like, this is the S&P, right? Like this was straight up. So, I mean, to expect it to continue at that trajectory, it's not sustainable. So, I know Will had this mapped out. I had this daily gap mapped out, at this, $5,400 level. And obviously we're filling that today, and we have some market structure in this area. I would like to see this area hold on the S&P, maybe make this our range up here. So we start making a range before continuing higher. But we are in an uptrend, so I'm going to, continue to expect more uptrend until proven otherwise. But we don't want this to turn into this complacency shoulder. You know what I mean? You don't want this to be the lower high. And then that's like kind of like the local top here for the S&P. Because that won't bode well for our coins. So I am, as of now, I'm looking for a reaction, in this area here. We filled our gap. We filled that liquidity and that inefficiency. So now, we're going to look for, it's not going to be pretty, it could be choppy. But, I'm going to expect some bottoming formation in this area, a chop that'll result in the choppy crypto market, choppy markets all around in September. And then hopefully we get that bullish price action going into Q4.
What do you think about Bitcoin and ETH here, Louis?
No, let's just talk ETH. Let's just talk ETH. All right, let's just talk ETH.
I don't think
the biggest shit coin of them all, bro. Like, Jesus, bro.
This is where we're at here on ETH. This was obviously a massive wick. And it looks like we're going to fill that. This is like kind of like our last level, like you were saying, Tommy, on the Discord. Like, this is kind of like, this is like your shot to have a double bottom type price action. We still have, a lot more time on the day left. Like, this could come down maybe a little further, and this could be like a wick, something like that. But if not, like, it's looking like this wick is probably going to get filled at least to the minimum on ETH. But, I'm still in the camp, like the joke, I'm in the camp that we still run that, that BTC ETF type playbook where, we're just selling off until the rest of this grayscale ETF gets sold off. And then we kind of reverse those sell-offs, slow or dwindle or reverse into buys. And then we reclaim this range. This is our range. We got to get back above it. But until then, until we're in this lower area, we just got to work on making a bottom. But we are at demand. Like, this is major market structure here for ETH. So you don't want to see this $2,100 level lost on ETH because then we're in trouble. Then you're getting back into your bear market low territory. Like, this is our bear market low territory.
Would that be lights out?
Lights out. That'd be this is the basement. Light turned off, and like the scary monsters are coming to get you. So
you can actually bring that over further to your left there too. Louis, if you want. There's so much confluence.
Oh yeah.
There's so much confluence in that range. Like, and when I say confluence for the audience's sake, like all you're looking for is you're looking for price activity, right? It's kind of like your what's the indicator for that for the price activity? I forget what indicator that's used, but that's basically where. Go ahead.
Like the volume profile.
Volume profile. There you go. Yeah, it's like a volume profile indicator. You don't need those guys, but like a lot of people use them because they don't really understand volume profiles. But it's basically where your activity is the highest, right? So you got your big peak over there where you basically rejected, then you broke above, use it as support, and then ran all the way up, ran back down, use it as resistance, and then resistance, and then support. And what it means is that in that area of liquidity, there's a lot of activity. People like that price area. But if you lose that price area, it means you can go significantly down to the downside before you come back up. That's why we say lights out if you break certain levels. You don't want to see certain price activity levels broken. And we're testing a lot of like really crazy, price activity levels that I didn't think we'd get back to be honest with you. But like Ethereum is just one of those that's just, it's a piece of shit. Let's just be real. Like it's absolute garbage. Like people can say whatever they want about the tech. Like why the hell did you retrace your entire breakout? I need an explanation. I need a dev to explain it to me. I need the founder to explain it to me. I need Warren Buffett to explain it to me. But there's no reason to retrace your entire breakout. That's nutty.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
100% move.
It's gotta hold that wick. It's gotta hold that wick, man. Because if it doesn't, like, it's gonna come down a lot more.
Well, I mean, right below you have this mark. You have this.
You have a little bit lower.
You have this. So it's like this little gap in between. So if we want to be generous, more as a price area, you got to give it until if we're coming all the way down to this wick, you got to give it at least up until 2000, like 1900, 2000, because if you say lights out after this wick, it comes into this massive area of buying and selling, which is now support until proven otherwise. You sell here on a loss of this, but then it comes in here and just rips your face off. Or like Will saying, or it rounds out, but it didn't. I would say if we got here and then we decided to come down and that'd be more like a bullish throwback. I mean, we got a true breakout here. So I mean, I could say this is somewhat of like a throwback to to your support, but this is too much of a breakout to even consider it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just a testament to the lack of appetite for risk in these markets, until people start coming down the risk curve.
Hold on, Louis. Is it a lack of risk or a lack of ETH?
Well, I mean,
a lack of interest.
IWM still hasn't done anything either, so this is like your indicator for risk.
I'm just saying, like
breakout, but it's not like true like risk on. You know what I mean? For high beta risk assets.
$8 to $150. We know what asset I'm talking about, and then shit coins galore.
Yeah, that was 2023. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm telling people too. Is like this is why I think the narrative is going to shift from shit coins to basically fundamentals, because I think everything's shifting right now. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the transition of liquidity from the casino to the fundamentals to pull in the retail, and then it'll be casino again later, right? And I think that we're seeing that strength in these altcoins right now as we speak. You got Bitcoin basically nuking, right? And you've got some of these altcoins, they're not even moving. They're actually up. They're up on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, even Aave, people are like, oh, Aave is not coming down. Like it's doing fine. I've looked at Aave's chart. It looks good. It looks really good. I think if you're positioning correctly here, you're fine. Your portfolio is unaffected by this Bitcoin drop. Bitcoin is not affecting alts right now, not in the way that people think that it is. It is if you're in meme coins, it 100% is. You're getting crushed day after day after day. because there's no liquidity coming in. But fundamental coins are not selling off. They're just not.
I kind of think it's a result of that we are just kind of lacking. I mean, there's been liquidity that's coming to the market, right? Like I want to say, I don't know if M2 has hit all-time highs yet or not. We've had the opportunity for certain assets to run, and the ones that have run incredibly hard, right? Like Will pointed out, Solana. In equity markets, it was Nvidia and the AI trade, but I still think the broader market is maybe lacking. It's lacking that liquidity to pump things like Ethereum, to pump things like IWM. And so really what the things that we saw pump already in this cycle, I mean, Nvidia, I guess equity markets are a little bit different, but in crypto specifically, the assets that pump the hardest, I mean, Solana is a lower market cap than ETH, so I will at least not hold that against ETH at face value. Sol was going to be easier to pump because it required less capital to do so, but also you look at the other altcoins that pumped the hardest; they were meme coins versus the quote unquote utility coins, and something that we've talked about on the show before is that a lot of the coins that were around in 2020 and 2021 didn't have the same level of supply overhang that they do right now. So meme coins did not have that, right? And there's a reason that they were much easier to pump multiples, obviously over the last 12 months than something like, like an AVAX, for example. Bobby would hate that I mentioned AVAX on stream, but yeah, something like an AVAX from 2020 to 2021 that had way more supply get emitted into the market over the last few years that you just couldn't see. So it's kind of like it's almost like it's been a silent killer for markets, right? Like that supply overhang has still been present, but you do have, I mean, this is kind of part of the liquidity cycle. Not everything is going to pump right at the beginning. Some things are going to pump more so at the end. And global liquidity cycles don't end in 1 or 2 years. They're typically like 5 or 6 year periods where liquidity will eventually ramp up. And I believe liquidity for this current cycle is supposed to top somewhere around like 2026, 2027, give or take. So that would be kind of what I would be looking for, right? Like I think the more liquidity that we inevitably bring into the market, which we've talked a lot about the tailwinds that are coming in Q4 and also post-election seasonality that will be good for liquidity. The more that these things pump, the more likely that I think utility coins are to be bid, or really kind of these assets that have struggled to catch a bid. They're more likely to catch one. But I also don't think that means that the market is necessarily interested in them in the same way that they were, in 2020 or 2021, right? Like ETH is a different asset now than I think it was viewed, at least in 2020 to 2021. So it's still a question mark of how are the suits going to perceive ETH versus some of these other opportunities in crypto, and especially against Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been the only asset in crypto that has a persistent underlying bid on it for like 6 or 7 months now. And it's because the boomers want Bitcoin. ETH still has to establish that. And maybe the trick for that to occur is eventually going to be number going higher, right? Like ETH's price going up, the suits get interested because most suits aren't going to be buying the bottom, contrary to what most people believe. They're going to be buying the top if 2021 was any indication. And maybe that's what gets people interested in ETH. But I think right now there's kind of a myriad of reasons why ETH has struggled to catch a bid. But I would certainly champion liquidity as probably the primary reason for that still. Like we need that dispersion of liquidity throughout the crypto market that's still yet to come. And I think more than anything, a cyclical factor.
So I will say this, Todd, I hope you're joking.
He loves to joke in the comments.
And then Louis, if you want to cook through this chart, I got a pretty good cook. I wanna kind of run through some things.
Yeah.
But I don't think total 3 is over, guys. Like I think you need to really kind of zoom out here. I don't have control of the, hands on the wheel, type scenario. So somebody has to click my screen.
That'd be Tommy. You got to put him up.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
So, anyways, and I snipped this from like 2020, I think 2023, still here.
I remember when we were having that conversation.
This is from the comment section. But I mean, look, I mean, you can call this what you want, guys. You can call it what you want, but you know, I like to call this a bull flag. I'm just saying, like a bull flag. That's not a bear flag. Markets go two directions, right? If they want to go long, what does a market maker need to go long, Tommy? What do they need to go long? If they want the market to go higher without them buying it up, what do they need for their side of the position?
They're going to need liquidity. They're going to need inventory of the asset, and they're going to need find buyers to push it up, especially if they already have.
All right, so I think two of those are the most important: inventory and buyers, right? So to create inventory, what do you do? What do you do? Do you make a chart bullish to create inventory? Is that what you do as a market maker?
Sellers.
You create sellers, right? You create sellers, and how do you keep those sellers in line? You structure them, right? You structure those sellers. So how do you structure them? You keep price trapped within a percentage move all the way to the downside until you reach a certain level of liquidity, and then you stop forcing them down, right? And then what do? You start distributing, right? You start distributing. And what does the market do? Because you're not selling, there's not as much sell pressure. And so the market is buying. Or sorry, you are selling. Because you are selling, there's only your sell side pressure, right? There's only your sell side pressure. Because why? Because the market is in a full buy-up frenzy. The market can outweigh the market maker's sell position as long as the market maker sells and eases it. And so the market maker can force prices back up through going short to go long, right? And when they want to go short side, they go long to go short. That's what they do. Now, if a market maker is going to end the market, it's going to look like this. This. Red, 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 red. No green. Zero green. Zero. There's no rebalance needed, right? There's no rebalance needed. And what is the market maker looking for here? What are they looking for when they sell off a market? They're looking for interest. They're looking for demand. And they'll keep selling until they find demand. That's what they will do. They will force sellers until they find demand. So, again, I urge everybody in here to be cautious. Be cautious about your not here in the panel, but in the audience. Be cautious about your overly bearishness going into cuts and coming down in a structured manner. Structured being 2% up, 2% down, 2% up, 2% down, 2% up, 2% down. Does anybody not think that's kind of mechanical? Does anybody think about that? Like that's kind of mechanical? Because if they were going to take it away and this was over, they would just take it away. It's gone. When a bear market comes, you don't even see that shit coming. They're giving you plenty of time to see that. This is the slow moving train. This is the turning around and the train's already in your face, 100 mile an hour.
Yeah. Sorry to cut
running
you
you
off,
over.
like I totally agree with that. It's like it's a sentiment thing. You could tell, like, you know, the past 4 months. I mean, maybe not the first 2 months of like this giant, this consolidation pattern that we're seeing here. You know, the majority of this consolidation pattern, more people were worried than bullish. Like people, they're holding, you know what I mean? They're dealing with the chop, the people that are like hanging around. But it's like every dump, they're like considering like, oh, should I sell? Like, is it over? Like when I say like when we're at a market top, that is not gonna be a thought in your mind. Like the thought in your mind is, what can I buy to get more rich? What can I buy to add to my gains? and it's going to be constant. Like right now, like it's just negative news. And there's always reasons for price to go lower. When we're at a top, it's going to be positive news after positive news after positive news.
Even
and
after dropping.
Yeah. And then like once the good news starts not making such an effect on price, you're still in the mindset of, we're going to keep going up here. There's all these reasons to be bullish. And that's when you get your market top. So the sentiment we've seen over the last couple months is not market top sentiment. It's just not.
Yeah. I have a good rule of thumb for that, Louis. I'm sure you guys can relate by experience to some degree. Maybe exactly with what I'm about to say, but I remember at market, really the only market top where I was like completely caught off guard. But I've caught myself thinking similarly before, and thankfully not made the same mistake. But I do think back to like May of 2021, which was my first. That was really my first major crypto cycle. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, like I have concentrated my money into this beta and that beta. And I think it's going to go up like more than anything else in the market. I have this amount of cash that I'm trying to allocate into more beta that I want to find the next thing that's going to go up just as much. I feel like these assets over here are definitely going to go up 200, 300, 400% over the next few months or the year, but I think that I can outperform that, even still. And so I'm not really looking to buy those. Every time I've caught myself in that mindset, the market was topped like 100% of the time. And I've kind of caught myself feeling that way maybe 2 other times over the years. And thankfully I did kind of course correct in between. But yeah, in May 2021, I talk a lot about this. Like I got smoked by that correction because I was thinking like that. It's like Louis said, when you're thinking about in peak euphoria, you're just thinking, okay, how can I do even more multiples on top of what I already have? What assets can I buy that are going to yield those multiples? And you're not really thinking about, you're not thinking about managing your risk. You're just thinking about how much more money you can make.
In 2021, I was just like next 100x, next 100x, next 100x, next 100. And then I literally towards the end of the year, I was just like, there's something wrong with this picture. I'm like, the market doesn't just give like this. I'm like, this shit's gonna blow up. And then I started positioning the other way, right? I was like, I think I'm way off size here. I'm like, I have to start going to cash. And I started shifting to cash. And then I saw the FTX train before it even hit. And I was like, oh, this shit's gonna hit hard. And then but here's the thing too. I saw the Luna trade. So Luna was kind of the mark of the top, right? Where the cascade waterfall started really happening. And then FTX was kind of the mark of the bottom. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Those 2 events mark different points in the market. And so you could be like, oh, the FTX, you could have bought all the way into the FTX collapse. It wouldn't have mattered. You'd have been up significantly. You could have bought all the way into it. But the point being is knowing when you're at the top and when you're at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
But all people were looking for is more events after FTX. FTX was it. That was it. That's all you needed to wash out.
Like bad, like I was saying earlier, like good news, like will mark the top, but it just won't carry price. Same reason with FTX, like bad news marked the bottom. You know what I mean? Like you got all that bad news at the bottom. And everyone's like, oh, now we're really going low. Realistically, you already had your bear market 75%. And that bad news, that last plunge was the bad news that marked the bottom. And you had a bunch more bad news down there, but price stopped moving down. And we started drifting higher.
That's exactly. We were talking about that on Tuesday, right, Louis? The literally like studying the theory of reflexivity, how you have tops and bottoms marked by like price will go sideways while investor expectations keep going parabolic in either direction. And when that divergence happens, that's usually when you can identify tops and bottoms. But
look at Pitbox. No, I mean this is kind of a sentiment barometer too, man. Like it's tough. It's tough being in here. Like, look, 196 days of literal just downward shit action. That's all it is. Like it just and I was buying through here. It was rough. It was rough. I'm not even gonna be like, oh, I only bought here. Look, I bought here. I bought here.
I bought all that.
I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna keep getting wrecked, I guess. I was like, but it's got to stop at some point, because I was looking at the bull dip and I was like, okay, at some point this thing stops going down, so I'm just gonna keep buying into it. And plus, time wise too, right? I was looking at the time. I was like, this is the time where you need to be looking to buy, so on and so forth. So I was kind of lining up a few factors there. It wasn't like I was just shooting blanks in the dark. And then, we had the breakout, right? And then everybody thought this was fake. Everybody thought this whole area right here was fake. I had to come in with conviction and start scooping Bitcoin to show people like, hey, I'll put my money where my mouth is. Everybody thinks I'm just talking shit. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. But no, I'm literally freaking buying here. And then, 203, again, 196 days, 203 days consolidation, breakout. And now again, we're at this pinnacle point where everybody's panicking going into cuts, and we're so close to that same time frame. Minimal drawdown, same type of price action here as here, and everybody's freaking out. They're freaking out. Like you are at primo pricing here, guys. Like this is where you should be looking. Okay, what can I buy? Let me go and pull up some charts and get some stuff on my radar and see where I need to be buying. Right? Like this. I'm not even saying meme coins, because I've been screaming to people to buy fundamentals. I know it sounds boring, but it is what it is. And fundamentals have been showing the same strength. But this right here, mark the bottom. And I think we're really close. If we take this from a time standpoint, 1, 2, 3 weeks, we hit our end of our 196 days, and our 4th week we should be going. That should be basically at the end of this month. I would say, like, for most people, I know it's tough, but as long as you remain in this range, I would just stick it out to the end of the month at least, at minimum. Right.
Well, yeah, that goes back to the seasonality, where September is usually like a choppy, either chop down or chop to slightly up, going into that Q4. Like you've made it this far. Like don't, at the end it gets the hardest. Of course, it's like the hardest before it gets better. It gets worse before it gets better. If that makes sense. Like you made it this far. The seasonality and the cycle timeline is still, in our favor. At this point. So I mean, if you're gonna get, just say screw it and just start selling here, it's probably the least risk reward, to do that. The time to sell was a couple months ago when we were at range highs, so I would agree with Will there, Yeah,
and the thing is even when we got this buy up here, I was on the show telling you guys, like, this is probably where you cut. And it was, again, due to price activity range, right? You basically had a high fluctuation of price activity right in here. Boom, 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 boom. And I was just like, if you swing, you're probably going to swing this, hit, and roll. And that's what happened. We hit and rolled. We rejected the range. We didn't stay up there. It's not all the pit roll arc. I was just coming every day. I was like, you're just going to pit roll. This is literally like, because I kind of knew this buy up looked bullish, and then you had the doji, which is indecisiveness, and then the market decides to pump, and then it runs it, right? And I kind of knew, like, this is if they go down, it'll go back up. If they go up, it'll come back down. And they went up, and I was like, okay, we're coming back down, and we're not going to just come back down to the lower level. We're going to probably breach that level. Now, where are we at right now? Why are we hanging out here in liquidity? Probably a lot of people have that question, like, where can we go? What are we doing? So on and so forth. Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. You have this level and you have this level, kind of where you're going to hang out, at least for a little bit. And if you breach these, again, you can see right here the channel I have drawn out plus the liquidity zone. You can come back down and tag this wick if you want. You can fill the whole thing. Theoretically, I would expect them to probably stop around like 50, right? But you have 2 liquidity zones here that were tapped. This wick hit exactly this wick, right? On the money. This wick literally tapped the liquidity from the resistance of this wick. Think about that for a second. That means for me, when I look at this chart, regardless of what's going on, you have a high demand range right in here, right? high demand range. I mean, it's theoretically, you should be able to come down and hit this and see more bids, right? Even if you do that, you should be able to see more bids, because what was resistance is now considered what is now support. And I think people have to really understand that from a market perspective, right? This is the lowest I think theoretically you can go. It is. Like, I know there's some people shooting for a little bit lower. Hey, maybe they dip liquidity. I don't know. Like, possibility. But I've been saying this now for weeks. And like, people are like, oh no, it's gonna go this way, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, because you broke your once we broke this, and we came down here, I was like, this shit's cooked. It's done, right? I'm like, we're not gonna hold the range anymore. And we just went up, we ran liquidity, ran down, ran liquidity, ran down. And eventually, though, from a structure standpoint, it's still down and to the right for a breakout. That's what I'm looking at for here. And I think people need to consider that. And again, I think that if we're looking at a time span, I could even give a theoretical, not definite, a theoretical time span of 196 days, right? Based off of what? Based off of previous consolidation ranges right here in the market, based off of these. So a theoretical consolidation range would be 196 days, and then we should get a breakout. And if you don't see a breakout and you're over here 2 months past this, now you can be like, oh shit, maybe Will's wrong, right? We're 2-3 months past that. We haven't hit yet. But the other thing is too, is basically the way to view a market, if you're ever going to be bearish, is a weak Q1 or a strong Q1. That's theoretically always the best way to view a market. You never view it by the end of the year. You view it by the beginning of the year, because the beginning of the year will basically put a staple for the rest of the year. So if you get a strong Q1,
data, I know you say that a lot. Will, do you have like data on that? Like, I know you always say like how the first quarter or the first month of the year. And is that in equities or is that?
That's in equities.
First quarter of equities.
I believe the Qs has marked that for over 70 years now, straight.
Wow.
So as long as it has positive Q1, it will mark the rest of the year positive. It means you have a flourishing year. If it has a negative Q1, then you'll have a negative rest of the year. Now, does that mean the whole year is going to be positive? No, it just means you're going to have substantial gains. That's what it means.
Nothing goes straight up,
Yeah. So with that being said, I think right here it's just a patience game. Again, we could see 49, we could see 50. It's whatever. Not bothered by it. It's unbothering to me. We did fill the gap, and holy shit, we went past it. Right? Oh my god, yeah, scared. Here's the low. Right? Here's the gap fill they filled before. So, do we theoretically fill it again, or do we use that as support? Like, I've seen these be used as supporter before, but hey, we could theoretically hit it again. I mean, we could even go lower, right? And this looks like shit. Like, people should be like, oh my god, guys, oh no, poor SPY. We're down a whole 4.3%. Oh my god, be scared. Theoretically could go down. If they really want to take it there at 9.6, you lose 10%. SPY doesn't freaking matter, dude. Like, it's nothing, right? It's nothing. It's you could lose 10%. Wow, what they do? Like, I don't even know why. Like, I brought it up because I saw the gap, and I was like, okay, if SPY's gonna drop, we're probably gonna see everything else drop. But like, outside of that, like, is anybody buying SPY? Anybody in the audience buying SPY? If you're not buying SPY, it doesn't matter. I don't know anybody who's buying SPY.
I mean, it's like 401ks by SPY, right? Like, or by the S&P. It matters for the standpoint of like the wealth effect that in general it creates to have a higher 401k and all that good stuff. But on an individual level, I mean, most people are probably not just buying the S&P. They might be buying the NASDAQ, but probably not the S&P.
Yeah. And then you have basically Nvidia. I mean, Tommy, we were talking about this. We were talking about this up here. Talking about this. I was like, this shit's going to probably come down big. And I mean, I had a different layout, obviously, right? But we're talking $90. We're talking about this. And we're at 101 right now. 101. So, I mean, like this.
My thing with Nvidia, Will, is that it's basically the NASDAQ, right? So like if Nvidia is making a lower low, what does that mean for indices? And I still think the most bullish scenario I can cook up with that backdrop, like if Nvidia is going to make a lower low within the structure, the NASDAQ probably does too. The S&P doesn't have to. The S&P has been a lot stronger than the NASDAQ, but like where does that leave them? Yeah, the S&P could double bottom. Absolutely. And I will say we've seen kind of this scenario play out on indices before. If you just like scroll back through index price action since post 2008, there are a lot of instances where we have like double or triple bottoms on SPOOs. And I think that would probably be the most bullish scenario for the S&P if Nvidia is going to make a lower low. I mean, some people probably don't view it as it's going to make a lower low. I'm still in the camp that it will, personally, just based on the market structure that we see on it, but it doesn't have to.
When you say lower low, you mean like lower than here?
Say it again.
When you say lower low, what price are we talking?
For Nvidia? I mean, for Nvidia to make
Nvidia.
A lower low, you have to go below like 90, right? Or like 95.
Yeah, have to go below 90. Oh yeah.
I think that's very doable based on the current structure, but I don't think the S&P has to. If Nvidia is just going to do a very controlled like bull flag from here, very similar to what Tesla did in 2022, then I don't think the S&P necessarily has to make a lower low, right? Like it could just do a double bottom from a market structure standpoint, because it does look, the S&P does look significantly better so far than the NASDAQ.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the camp. Here's the thing. I'm in the camp. You lose levels, and you start talking about lower levels. And I think you need to lose that 90 level before you can even talk about lower levels.
That is a lower low. If it hit 90, that'd be a lower low for Nvidia.
No, right? It would still be a higher low structure. Oh yeah. If you hit 90, yeah. No, it would be a double bottom. It'd be a double bottom.
The NASDAQ, actually looking at it, the NASDAQ looks a lot like it did in August and October of 2020.
Honestly, like I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was going to see if you could pull it up.
Oh yeah, I can pull it up. I think this right here is where you have to hold, Tommy. I think if you don't hold this area right here, like you got all this again confluence, right? Confluence range. Yeah. You want to hit. Well, actually, we'll break it down more because you want to realistically hit as much liquidity zones as you can. So 1, 2, 3, 1. So we'll say right through here. The lowest you probably want to go is this 94.49. I think if you lose that,
it's good confluence with Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, structurally.
Yeah, and it's because you have this high time frame resistance here that really kind of shows that there was a lot of liquidity built up here. And if this liquidity fails, like where's your next level of liquidity, right? Realistically, it's probably down here. And then you probably don't have much as 75, and then you're probably, visiting down here from there if you lose that. So you have like those three levels you're kind of looking at for Nvidia. And if Nvidia starts losing levels, you should target the next level. And if it loses that level, you should target the next. I know a lot of people would be like, oh, well, this isn't really anything right here for me. I think this is a strong confluence area, resistance, support. This is a strong confluence area, resistance, support. And then a lot of resistance, right, would be another confluence area if they wanted to run it back to 50. But ideally, this is the structure I'm seeing for now until it's not. And then if this structure breaks and they end up breaking below it, expecting a retest and a roll, and then I get rid of this whole structure and kind of revisit the pattern and try and figure out what's going on here. And then maybe this ultimately turns into, this. Maybe it turns into that, right? It turns into a bull flag or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. For now, it's a pennant, and then if it turns into a flag later, that's fine. It just means we're going to stay up here and extend it to the downside for a while. But this puke, what do you think of this, man? Like, this is pretty crazy. Like, I think that the market moving this quickly on a sell-off is a flush, and I think flushes are bullish.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it kind of needs to bounce here, or it's going to look a lot worse next week.
Lights out. Well, that lines up with like the VIX, like I was saying in the beginning of the stream, like that. This is like that complacency shoulder type of bounce for the VIX. What's the VIX at? Yeah, the VIX is already up 18% on the day. I mean, the quicker the better. I like to rip the Band-Aid off. Like Bitcoin used to dump like 20-25%, and then it would nuke everybody, and then it'd be back up in like a couple of days. Like this is, we've been seeing different type of price action. Like I'd rather just rip the Band-Aid off, get the sell out of the way, run the stops, run all those levels, like those cascades, because then you get those big impulses up out of those, and you get a quick cleanse versus the slow bleed. So I'll take it. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big deal to me. But that would line up with like that VIX complacency shoulder bounce. Maybe a little higher. Maybe we got a little more selling into the Monday open, and then hopefully we finish, the rest of the month strong at least, or at least break even. How do you guys feel about us coming into September, but the first week, it's pretty much red? Does that make you feel better that we're starting off the month red versus starting green? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that timing of it?
Where did we open?
On which asset?
Just looking at monthly opens across the board. I mean, I don't really have any thoughts on it necessarily. Yeah, I don't have any. If you're to reclaim monthly open, though, I would say if you start reclaiming monthly opens across the board, you're probably going to you'd probably rip into Powell for one. I don't know about the end of the month, but you're probably at least ripping into Powell.
Yeah, here's like, I don't know who hacked my trading view, but my thoughts are,
the big tech overlords don't want you to share the alpha, Will.
But
yeah, so you're looking at that lower high on the NASDAQ.
Yeah,
because I actually found something from 2020. It looks identical, which it also ends up being a rip to the upside afterwards. Right, it's 2020 August and
2020.
Yeah, where is it? What are you on? Are you on the monthly?
Weekly.
Yeah, go to the daily. You can probably see it better. Yeah, right there, a little higher. No, and then under that, right in between. Yeah, right there.
Yeah,
just
zoom
it out a little bit so you could see it clear. But you had a clear high, like a clear impulse high. Then you kind of made like a right complacency shoulder low. You came back to the base, and then you just ripped higher. And I guarantee you, people are calling for a lower low there. And if you compare that to what we're doing now on the NASDAQ, it looks almost identical. And that was like a mid-cycle move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of a slow uptrend with a lot of volatility, basically. Grind high.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Roaring Kitty just tweeted? You want to go to GameStop? What
did he say? Buy me out of my stocks.
Will and I have gotten burned a few times on the GME play, man.
Yeah, I'm not touching GME stock. Absolutely not. If I'm doing anything, I'm shorting it. That's it. Look, he pumped it up a little bit. He pumped it. He's trying to break that resistance. Here's the thing. I think this plays out. I think I don't care if he tweets or doesn't tweet. Like I think you're about to roll. I think this is the pit roll arc right here for GME. You're about to come down all the way down here like 14. You bid there. You bid there. This shit's gonna at 14. We're going.
No.
What's up? You said it's not what?
That's not that bad.
If you're long, it is. You're gonna get nuked.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a small cap. I'm too used to looking at crypto charts, I guess, where 20 to 30% within the structure isn't that bad.
Yeah, in crypto and stocks, you're gonna get nuked. You're gonna get nuked out of this world, man. They're gonna literally come for your position at that point. But yeah, this thing looks. I think that this thing's gonna roll. And again, you can see they're kind of building long, wink, wink, and then they're gonna roll this thing. Right? It's absolutely roll. IWM, interesting, right? Basically told you guys like we'll probably roll into this. We're doing that. We are doing that. I'm looking for 202. Could even come all the way down to 195. You don't want to see this structurally break 195. Otherwise, it's probably a roll retest and then pit roll to the low, right? You don't want to ideally see that because otherwise, low cats are about to get absolutely obliterated. Rivian playing out, man. You just got to be patient. You just got to be patient. That's all it is, just patience. Why? That's why. See that big hole? Holes got to get filled. All right? Holes got to get filled. Study. Look at
Holes have to get filled.
Loose. Check it out.
I had to hit you with the eyebrow. I'm sorry.
Loosen to the downside, right? Loosen to the downside. Right here, all the way down. Probably gonna hit the trend line. Ideally. PLTR about to go into a pit roll arc. I'm so conflicted with this one because I want to be bullish on Palantir. I want to be, but
what does it do, Will? What is this company even?
Think of it like military devices, kind of, right? Like they do like AI, drones, like all that shit, like software, like lots of different random shit. But the thing I can't unsee is this. I can't unsee it, man. I can't unsee it. And we talked about patterns, and this is just one of those patterns, right? It's one of those patterns that structurally makes me think this thing's about to do this. Bloop. This is what I had originally, by the way, before this actually played out, because we were playing this thing from all the way down here. So I had this kind of like weird pattern built out, and it played much better than what I thought it would volatility wise. I thought it was going to nuke here, come back up, and I haven't looked at this chart in quite some time, so that's an older pattern. But ultimately, I think they're building long to go short here. And again, it kind of plays into my thesis: build long, go short, come back to support, run it up, right? Run it up. So for me, this is what I think is going to happen here with PLTR.
Will, did you see this comment?
Salesforce for the government to kill people. Oh, bro. No, he's not lying, though. He's not lying, though. Oh, my God.
Shout out to the Moon, by the way. To the Moon 806 for the super chats. I'm not going to put that one up on the stream, but we appreciate you as always, brother.
Everyone go study.
Look, this chart, I haven't looked at the Binance chart in a long time. I've been using a different chart, but Tucker made me pull this one up, and this is what I had for Solana when I pulled it up. I don't know when I drew this, but like this is so far though. Solana has been strong, man. Like just look at this range, dude.
Yeah, there's someone's defending that level for sure.
I don't know what's going on there. And here's the other thing. If you guys are freaking fearful, man, oof, I can't even help you. Like we've discussed this many times. I don't know what happened here. Apparently I nuked this chart, but
I can finally see stuff. I can see the chart.
Yeah, that's one of those. Let me see. I wanted to get into the ADA arc real quick, and then I'll kick it over if one of you guys want to hop in. But for me, man, like this is something that I would tell you guys. Like if you're bearish, all right. If you're bearish, remember bears here. Remember bears here.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not even saying buy Cardano, right? I'm stating the obvious. So remember bears here. Remember it's never coming back. Arc altcoins are shit. Nobody's gonna buy your altcoins. Nobody gives a shit about your altcoins.
Sounds
Yada
like right
yada
now.
yada. And then boom. Well, look at this. Nobody gives a shit about your altcoins. Nobody's buying your altcoins. Nobody cares about fundamentals. At fundamentals,
No one's got risk
we're
appetite.
gambling. Nobody's got risk appetite. There's no liquidity. Yada yada yada. So let's just make up 1,000 other things, right? On why nobody's gonna bid this range. Let's just make them up, and watch and see. Watch and see. That's what I'm gonna tell you.
Aliens are landing on Earth. Well,
aliens are landing on Earth. People are made now in pods.
I can't say that
them all
though. Else
Wait, you believe in space?
Tucker will call me a space lark.
Space lark.
The aliens are already here, bro.
Guys, I can't make it any more obvious. Any more, like you could say I'm waiting for lower. Where the hell is your lower? Because I can tell you, lower was here. Lower is here. Right? So where's your lower? That's all I'm trying to figure out.
I really like that chart, and there's tons
of
charts
asking that question about ETH. Will
I didn't say ETH. Yeah, anything but ETH.
Yeah, seriously, anything but ETH. But yeah, no, I really like that chart. And there's a lot of charts that look like this. And you know, they're at severe, like serious demand levels, serious structure. That will probably get bid just like it always does, you know, like you're not going to get your 100x here, but these are plays where you could put a good amount of size into, and you could still make, you know, a 5 to a 6, a 7x, something like that, which is still a crazy game. You know what I mean? Like people are like in crypto, it's like they have it all messed up. Like it's like 100x or bust kind of mentality. But like you can get like 6, 7x's, which is like serious money where you're not going to make in any other market. And it's just kind of sitting there, and you just got to be able to buy at these key levels and just, you know, deal with, you know, the turbulence that, you know, comes with bottoming markets, you know. And actually, you know, looking to the left, where we got that first run in 2021, and ADA was at 5 cents. I remember I was buying that at 5 cents. I ran ADA from 5 cents to $3. I didn't sell it at $3, but I sold it around like $1.50, $2. But that was like one of my biggest plays. But that goes back to something like a SUI or something like that, where we were talking about that earlier on the show. If you want to pull that up, Will. But SUI looks like what ADA looked like, kind of where it is before the 2021 run. It's kind of like at that. I use Cardano salesman. It's kind of at that like structure where it's kind of reclaiming that structure where if it gets going, you're gonna see a massive run from it. And something like a SUI, I could see doing numbers like ADA or Sol, like last cycle, those L1s that have that, you know, a decent amount of VC money behind it. And I know there's been, you know, a lot of garbage talk about the VCs, which is warranted. You know what I mean? They dump on everybody with their release schedules and whatnot. But if you think that their coins aren't going to pump, you got another thing coming, because they're going to pump. They're here to make money. So something like a SUI, I think, is like you're at that level or that area of like, okay, it's worth taking a shot and starting to buy this, you know, deal with the turbulence over the next couple of weeks or going into the end of this year. But like looking back, maybe 6 to 8 months from now, you're going to look back and be like, yeah, that was the time to buy stuff like this, to net you those 10x's, those, you know, those 6 to 10x's, those 12x's, which is a sizable gain no matter which way you slice it.
Yeah, let's look at HNT, if you don't mind, Will. I saw Dorito mention it in the comments.
Is that Helium?
Say that again. That is Helium. I've been seeing some stuff about this chart being a lot stronger than the rest of the market now for a few weeks. I would love to know what you guys think of it. sustainable uptrend. High time frame looks pretty good. It's one of the assets that is consistent. I don't know why it's catching a bid. I'm sure there's a fundamental reason that probably came after price pumped a little bit, but I'd love to know the narrative that HNT is pumping on if the comments know. I'm not quite as familiar with the asset, but I think Wabi's actually talked about this one as well in recent weeks.
Ooh.
So yeah, I mean, that chart looks great versus like when you compare it to other altcoins in the market. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's just most altcoins are a scam. I'm sure it's a scam, but what is it? Okay, I'm not going to ask what it does. Why
No,
is
they
what is the
have
fundamental catalyst?
they have a use case. So like
It is,
HNT is what you use to pay for your phone bill, right? And then HNT is what is used to support the network. So if you have like a 5G router or what, not router, but 5G signal thing, provider thing or whatever in your home, which people are actually the ones that provide the network, you put it in your house and people can bounce off of your 5G and use it for their service, right? And so you're basically paying, you're not paying them, you're paying for your service, which is cheap, by the way. And then they're getting paid for supplying the network. So it's almost like mining and phone service together. It's kind of I wouldn't even say, I almost said weird, but I don't think it's weird. I think it's actually pretty unique.
It's supposed to be like a decentralized, as far as I know, because this is something I was looking at, coming out of 2022, like that bear market where I was still looking for that next beta. And I was looking at HNT. It's an interesting, concept. It's basically, I think, as far as I remember, it's like a decentralized, like Wi-Fi network where you get those miners, or you get the whatever it is to mine the helium, but you're also providing like internet service. And I think the latest I heard was maybe late 2023, something where they got a partnership with the phone, or they're coming out with the phone. So now I think they're linking in
Helium phone.
Yeah.
Am I gonna have to? Am I gonna have to?
They partner with
I
the
don't miss
Solana
that
phone. I
trade
don't know,
again.
but
It was a Solana phone. It was a Solana phone.
So
they're providing
service.
service.
Buy the Sol phone.
Yeah, they're providing service for the Sol phones, and a lot of people did buy the Sol phones. I know a lot of people said nobody's using it, but a lot of people did buy them.
Well, they got the free bonk. They got some other meme coins. I'm pretty sure if I had bought one when I was told to buy one, I probably would have made money on it and had a free phone, which is kind of nice.
And from what I hear, the service is literally like $5, or it's almost like Boost Mobile prices back in the day. So people have to consider that.
I like the concept. I mean, like crypto, like Bitcoin, it's like the idea. I feel like we've gone away from this concept of like decentralization, like the roots of why crypto started. Like, I don't want to sound like that, like I'm here for the tech guy, but it's true. Like the decentralization of things, where not one entity is in control, where like we can band together as community and like run the network together. It's a great concept and it's a great idea. And like, that's what makes the technology of crypto and blockchain revolutionary. It's not the meme coins, which are fun as well, but it's the idea of decentralization, and everyone has a stake in a network, and stuff like Helium, where you can get a decentralized Wi-Fi, where else, like where we're at or wherever you live, you have one company that offers the Wi-Fi, and you got to pay whatever they say you got to pay, and that's that. And if it goes down, it goes down. So getting away from that is a good idea, and it's a good concept.
The point, at least for me, since I've been in crypto, the point of crypto has always been to lessen censorship, right? Or eliminate censorship. You cannot censor decentralization. It's impossible to censor it. It can be brought through in any way, any form. All somebody has to do is have a connection to the internet. That's it. And I think not enough people understand that. And I think that those kind of, I would say, scenarios or those type of evolution type plays are ones that work. Do I know if HNT will work out? Hey, I mean, look at Boost Mobile, right? They got merged into Sprint, and then Sprint got bought by T-Mobile, right? And so like obviously, or not T-Mobile, what was it? Was it T-Mobile? But anyways, these companies merged together and then merged again. and they ended up getting bought out and bought out. So they didn't make it. The cheap companies, right? The cheap phone companies, they end up eventually getting bought out. But hey, maybe they make a comeback. I will say this: $5 phones aren't bad. I'm not saying the service will be amazing. You probably have shit service unless you live in like a major city. But don't go out
I'll
in the
be honest,
country.
Well, I completely forgot that Sprint existed until you just brought it up. Like it was literally completely purged from my brain until you just until you just said it. I forgot
Remember the
that
Boost
Sprint
phone?
used to be up there with like T-Mobile and Verizon and AT&T. Man,
Well, no, they got bought out by T-Mobile.
yeah,
Yeah, they got bought out, so they got
That's
eliminated
funny.
too. It's they're slowly the problem with the phone service company, and this is what I think AT&T is capitalizing on, is they're slowly getting bought up and merged together. Right, you're getting
Monopoly.
a monopoly in the phone companies, and this is what decentralization is supposed to combat: is monopolies. And it's supposed to combat them in a way that they can't stomp them out, they can't silence them, they can't stop them from operating like they can normal companies. Now I know a lot of people are like, oh, we're here to make money. You are here to make money. So think about what you're investing in, and we're giving you thoughts behind why you would be investing, right? And it can give you kind of better ideas on different things that may gain traction due to narratives, right? And this would be a narrative that could play out, if the cycle progresses further. I think that H&T will do well in a bull market. I think it will do absolute dog shit in a bear market because there'll be no bid.
I think I agree with you completely, Will, and I think at the crux of it, you can probably question like the VC involvement, the motive behind an asset pumping. I think that's just kind of a product of we're coming out of 2021 and 2022. People saw all these bags get smoked, and but people shouldn't lose sight of the forest through the trees, because at the end of the day, what is going to propel crypto higher? It will be utility. It's not going to be explicitly just fundamental coins that VCs invest in. It's going to be, okay, what applications or what protocols can entice users to come in that weren't necessarily already involved in crypto, right? Like what user apps are attracting real world value and real world usage, because that's what's going to bring people to crypto, and maybe not just the entire crypto ecosystem, but those tokens or those assets are going to catch a bid no matter what. So those are going to be the real winners, in my opinion, of probably the next 5 to 10 years. I know people meme about consumer apps in crypto all the time, and it is to a large extent, kind of a meme, but there is, I think, quietly and in the grassroots, some very potentially useful things being built for down the road, right? They might not have users yet, and I don't think that's something that you can say about altcoins. Like, oh, they're gonna have users in the future, right? Like something like Denacoin or some garbage that you're gonna have to be able to use your critical thinking skills and discern, because not everything that's being built for users that aren't using it yet is actually going to be used. It's just not. Like what do you think is going to bring people into crypto, or is actually something where blockchain technology and decentralization can benefit your life? Those are going to be the projects that benefit from I think that those tailwinds. But that's not something that you can broad brush all of utility with, in my opinion. So stock picker's environment to some degree.
100%, Tommy. I completely agree. I pointed out a few levels here just to kind of get confluence. Like this area right here is a really good confluence area as far as like, your volume profile. Like you have a lot of activity here, right? You're always looking for activity. And if you can find support around activity zones, it's support, right? And it's a strong support. And I think that, if you're looking at this from a volume profile standpoint, this would probably be your strongest position in the entire chart. Could you remain relatively mute here, which means price just keeps doing this? Yes, you could, right? But I think eventually, you'll start building floors out of here and you'll start going like this. And then eventually, when the bull run comes, you'll break out. I think people just have to be more, they have to be more patient here. You have to be more patient with this market. Understand that things are getting bid. There is a bid, spot bid in many different assets right now. It's just, are you willing to look for those, or are you just looking for the next 100x, right? The next 100x could be in that fundamental coin that you're looking at. It may be there, even though you're still looking at memes.
Well, look at where the best returns were last cycle, right? I mean, outside of meme coins, SHIB was probably SHIB and Doge were really the biggest ones. Doge is, I would say, one of the only truly organic meme coins in all of crypto. SHIB, in my opinion, was an ETH Foundation, probably pump and dump, money laundering, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't necessarily organic. So I'm going to focus on the utility that pumped the hardest last cycle, which, initially it was DeFi, right? And a lot of those DeFi assets existed in the previous cycle. It's like their utility took time to be able to be realized, yes. Right? Like people saw more so that value, I think, of decentralization and just kind of owning, like having that personal sovereignty over your money is really kind of, at least initially, what I thought the crux of DeFi is. And you can say whatever you want about the negatives of it, because they exist, right? VC involvement, whatever. But why did people bid these assets initially? It's because they did believe in effectively the ethos of decentralized finance. And that was an exciting narrative. And it was more than just a narrative. You kind of had tech for the first time that backed that up. So I think we need to see probably similar thematics to that continue to occur for a lot of these things. But
yeah, I think oh, go ahead.
No, that was it for me.
Oh, yeah, I think there are real projects with real ideas and potentially really good setups. Like I think it was gaming with Baromir. Sorry if I butchered your name. He pointed out, and I actually forgot about this, but this is a really good point. Nova Labs and T-Mobile have signed an exclusive 5-year agreement. So yeah, I forgot actually. H&T is actually going to be assisting T-Mobile too for a 5-year agreement. So that's another thing too. So there's a lot of things on there, I would say, roadmap of what they're trying to move forward with. They're obviously trying to integrate into real world too, with decentralized as their focus, decentralization. And I think that's bullish. I think just a lot. Here's the problem with these, Tommy. A lot of people get burned here on the initial launch, right? They buy into the hype of the initial launch, the first cycle, and they get absolutely obliterated. And then all you get from there is hate. And then what do you get from that, Tommy? What's the potential? The hated rally, right? The freaking hated rally. It happens every single time. And I can't count. This is honest to God, Tommy. Like, this is why I'm so bullish on it. Like, ICP is a good play, period. But I'm so bullish on ICP because so many people got burned. They hate that coin. They absolutely hate it.
Man, it's so funny to me how much you like ICP, Will.
And because they hate it, I'm just like, dude, like this.
That's another decent chart too.
It is. It's a very good chart, and because it's hated, guess what? Shit's gonna go. It's gonna go vertical, guys. It's gonna look same exact setup as H&T, except at the low end range. Yeah. Same exact setup
before the pump.
Drop all the way to the floor, accumulate at the low, double bottom, run up, hit your high, come back down, use your support at your high volume profile location where all the activity is, and then you're gonna run, right? You're gonna run. Like that. People they're gonna be so mad. So mad.
I'll be mad if it goes back. If it fills the wick, Will, I'll buy you the nicest steak at a steakhouse. We'll go out for dinner. If ICP fills the wick on Coinbase, what is it, to like 1,000 or something?
Give me a 50% fill to give me to like 900.
No way.
What do you mean? You saying ICP to 900? Is that what you're saying, Tom?
I will literally buy you like a 2-year aged dry, like
if it reaches 900,
whatever the most like expensive steak at a steakhouse that you could find. If ICP goes back to all-time highs, it fills that week, I think I'd just be laughing more than anything. But also, if that
Fill
happened,
the wick.
I mean, crypto's probably at like 15 to 20 trillion market cap. So I'd be pretty rich at that
ICP
point
does
too.
this if ICP does this, get out. It's done. It's done. I'm cutting everything. I'm sitting in cash and I'm waiting. I'm literally just sitting and waiting. I don't know, man.
With that,
But like,
I think that's a good spot to be wrapping up. What do you think? Unless you wanted to look at one or two more things.
well, Wabi brought Rollbit up the other day. Remember, I talked about this. I said if you can flip this range right here, again, another high volume profile range, and you have the divs kind of playing in favor, I do think that Rollbit's going to make a nice little move here. If they can get above here, they can get above that range right there. They need to get above 10 cents. If they can get above 10 cents, I think you're going to start moving. I really think you're going to start moving. Now, does it mean you're going to just go vertical? Probably not. You'll probably roll back and start moving like that, and then you'll go vertical. But I think that, lows are being set. People are ignoring them. They're continuing to cry about downward Bitcoin when downward Bitcoin isn't affecting anything. Like, I mean, look at Sui on the day. Bitcoin just dropped down to mid 50s, and Sui dropped from 85 to 83 cents. I mean, come on, guys. Like, you got to really pay
sellers
attention.
left on some of these things. You know what I mean? Eventually, the sellers do get exhausted. I know it's been like the joke, like sellers are exhausted. It's like David Goggins. Like,
David Goggins.
but like eventually sellers do, like, they run out of sellers. Like, and then market, then the buyers overtake the sellers. And that's kind of where we're at in the market, in my opinion. I know we've been predicting it to be a little earlier than it has been, but it is what it is. That's where we're at in the market, and you got to deal with it. Like Will was saying earlier, like in the middle of the show, when he was saying where he was buying, in the bear market, like, just because you're buying and like there's areas you need to buy doesn't mean like that's going to be the bottom automatically. Like, when you start buying, like, the best like investors, like, they buy areas of price. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to buy and like be willing to eat some drawdown and like buy in an area. Yeah, like we were buying down there. Yeah, in that 196 days, in that 200-day span, you felt like crap. But guess what? After that, looking back, you were a genius for buying that area, because look what happened afterwards. And I think that's exactly what we're in now. So that's just how you got to do it. I mean, not the best investors aren't like scalpers and trading on perps and stuff like that. They're people that are for the long term, at least that survive the long term. Sorry about that.
It's the ones that can identify the levels, man. It's like once you can identify the areas where you're starting to get manipulated, where you're starting to base out, we'll say, like this is basing out, right? You're basing out to the downside, you're getting ready to bounce. You're basing out right here to the sideways, and you're getting ready to bounce. You're basing out to the downside, you're getting ready to bounce. Like, these are areas where you need to be ideally viewing as areas of opportunity. And, like, it doesn't mean go all in one spot or another. It just means, like, look around, buy some of this, buy some of that. That's all I was doing. I was literally I had a bag of cash, and I was just like, okay, I want some of that. Look for the next chart. I'll just take my time. And I was like, all right, buy some of that. All right, look for the next chart. All right, buy some of that. And I was just adding different things to my portfolio as we were dropping. Like, it gives you time to view the whole menu while you have time. You don't have to sit there and be like, all right, I'm going to all in on this one stake. And then that stake's not good. It's not good. Right?
Oh, I think we're at the part where, like, if we're going to sell off further, it's not going to be relative. It's not going to be more relative weakness from altcoins, because they've already come down enough within structure that alt Bitcoin pairs look like they're trying to bottom, right? It's going to be one of those things where if things sell, alts are probably going to sell to around the same degree as Bitcoin and ETH, which is typically that's what you see out of alt Bitcoin pairs usually. So, I mean, that's what I would say. I mean, not to say that alts can't go down more, but against Bitcoin, I think a lot of the good ones are going to be bottoming against Bitcoin on their pairs.
You're basically stating that if Bitcoin goes down 5%, they'll probably go down 5, maybe even 4, right? Maybe even show a little bit of strength against Bitcoin. they'll come down a little bit, but it'll be minute in comparison to like before. If Bitcoin dropped 5%, you might see a 25% drawdown in an altcoin.
Right.
Right.
Like I think we're not really at the point where if things drop, you're going to see Bitcoin dominance continue to rise. I think if we drop, you probably see Bitcoin dominance fall and Bitcoin sell a little bit more than altcoins even. But that's not every altcoin. I mean, there will be some that I mean, that goes without saying, right? There's so much like dispersion in the altcoin market right now that I shouldn't have to say that, but it's an important disclaimer. But I think that is a good spot for us to close the show, guys. We have been cooking for about an hour and a half for you on this lovely Friday. Last time I checked, we were a little bit shy of 200 likes on the stream. We did not. I did not pick on you guys at all for the like button today. I'd be very appreciative, of course, if you could push us up to 200 while I'm doing our little outro here. But to run through a few things before we officially wrap up and send you into your weekend, whatever that entails for you. Maybe that means more charts. Maybe that means a weekend full of college football, NFL football, who knows? But obviously lots of fun stuff to do on weekends for everybody, right? Either way, happy Friday, guys. A few quick reminders. We have launched our official hedge fund. That is BB Wealth Management. We specialize in digital assets, and we do so in a way that looks to capture, obviously, their history for asymmetric returns to the upside while also managing the downside risk posed in any markets. We do have more information on our wealth management fund, which is SEC registered, by the way, linked in the description below. So make sure to check that out if becoming an accredited investor or LP is something that would interest you. We also have the BB Academy, guys, which has been launched for about 4 or 5 months, but I'm going to say it on every show that I am on. We've been getting great feedback from you guys. So you guys love the Academy. That is what we did. I mean, that's the whole reason we did it, to educate, to hopefully provide you with all of with our alpha as traders, or a reminder, we are a team, very diverse skill sets and opinions. I think that's invaluable to be able to conquer markets and to be able to see, I think, the market through so many different lenses, right? That's the real value of BB Academy, at the crux of it, in my opinion. So make sure to check that out as well. We do have more information linked in the description below. Of course, we have the BB terminal launching next week for the public, right? I mean, it's been live for, if you've been a Discord member for the last week or so. Also gotten great feedback on that as well. But that's a product that we're just very, very excited to finally be bringing to you. I mean, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears has gone into it. And just like the BB Academy, guys, I mean, this is something that we've spent almost a full year developing on the back end. So we're not just shipping you these half-assed products or ideas. We are putting our heart and soul into them and making sure that they are the best possible product that you can buy on the market. So get excited for that. BB Terminal next week. Very, very, very excited. I'm trying not to say excited anymore, but I am very, very enthusiastic about the fact that that is launching next week. Of course, we also have programming to cover, guys. Market Talk will be live this afternoon with King Wabi. He does a great job on those Twitter spaces, but reminder that we host them from our Because Bitcoin Twitter account. So make sure to stay subscribed and following so you can be notified, not just when we schedule those spaces, but also when we go live. Of course, Market Check will be back for another episode, not tomorrow because it is the weekend, but Monday, bright and early at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will see you guys there for another episode where we just like to talk charts, markets, pretty much everything that's on our mind. As you guys have probably noticed at this point, we'll talk fundamentals, meme coins, and technical analysis, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But we certainly enjoy cooking for you guys here every day. But that is it from us, guys. We will see you on Monday. Y'all have a great weekend, a fantastic Friday. And as always, thank you again and stay safe.